God that God will restore all that their enemy has planned to take from them. And I hope He gives them strength as well, because it's not easy. I have no doubt in my mind that just like Niqab has been hounded by the government as well will try to do something, whether it's through the police or anybody else. And it's flabbergasting. People, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much. Please let me know. You know, last year, the biggest donor to the Conservative Party, it was revealed that he had made incredibly racially motivated, hateful comments against Diane Abbott, who is the first female black MP in British Parliament. To the extent that he said, looking at her, something to the effect that makes him hate black women, and something about shooting or killing her. The so-called police decided that there will be no investigation required. But now they want to they want to make it or investigate death to the IDF. I don't understand. How is this different? And being the British society being the way it is, they're comparing Bob Dylan's death to the IDF to the recent case of Lucy Connolly. I don't know if guys know about Lucy Connolly, but she was the white woman. There's a reason why I said white, because it's always a different standard for white people. She's a white woman that last year put out a tweet just before the race riots erupted, basically blaming immigrants for the deaths of those beautiful children that were murdered in a heinous attack. And she said, burn the I think the hotels. She doesn't care if they die, that kind of thing. Now she got prosecuted and she's in jail. Now, typical racists in this country lost their minds. They started to call her a political prisoner. And now they're comparing her case to Bob Dylan. Now, she was calling for the death of innocent immigrants, innocent people, to the extent that one of these people did go and attack a hotel where a refugee or asylum seeker was. Now, it doesn't mean that it was her words that made him do it. He would probably have done it anyway. Either way, this was all part of the whole race riot thing, right? Bob Dylan is saying death to a state-sanctioned terrorist army. There's just a massive difference here. But the British society, being the British society, and racists who like to clutch their pearls, they're basically like, oh, it's the same thing, but look at her. She's been turned into a political prisoner and she's locked up for 31 months. We must see the same thing happen to Bob Dylan. This is bullshit. You're comparing apples with freaking oranges. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dr. Shola. Welcome to Ian and Maze as well. So you know what? Let me just tell you something, right, about this Bob Dylan person. His agent, right, one of the guys who actually worked at the talent agency, his talent agency was called UTA. One of the partners at the talent agency is a guy called Ken. He's a member of UTA's music leadership team, and he oversees the booking and touring. Remember, Bob Dylan was supposed to do a tour in America. Ken follows the IDF account, right? Let me tell you something here. He also follows Israel Sisi, IDF, Stand With Us. Anybody who knows that Stand With Us is one of these Zionist kind of, it's all about us, everyone's anti-Semitic, we haven't done anything wrong, let's dox people and cancel people. He follows Stand With Us. This is the account he follows. This is the agency that Bob Dylan was with. This is the agency that dropped him. It does not surprise me in the least. Well, actually it does, to be honest, because I thought we'd come a long way away from this. Like 3 or 4 years ago, when I would say to people that, look, these things are controlled by Zionists. If you say the wrong thing, your life as you know it is over, especially if you're an artist. For those of you who followed Gary Lineker, BBC TV presenter, world-class footballer previously, captain, I believe, for the English football team once upon a time, he did that video tweet of what is Zionism on Instagram. And because the video he tweeted, right next to the word Zionism, it had a rat next to it. He didn't really look properly. He didn't think about it. He had a feeling, and I was reading this yesterday. So what we saw is that they let him go. He had presented Match of the Day, which is a football program, for 25 years. And then he did his final Match of the Day. What we didn't know, which I read yesterday, was he didn't even know that they were going to let him go until he went into the studio. They'd already made the decision without speaking to him and told him, we're going to let you go. This is the BBC. This is how much control they've got. And when I look at that, and I look at the Idaho shooter, okay, and I look at the fact that in Idaho, the county sheriff got his training in Israel. Like, why did the county sheriff go to Israel to get his training? And when I look at the shooter's dad, actually went to Israel and studied Hebrew. It's like, how occupied are we? This is crazy. This is next level crazy. Let me welcome Ian and Maze. Let me go to Ian, jump in, and then I'll come to you, Maze.
Ian, you there?
Yeah, there we go. The hard mute was acting up. But look, to Khaleesi's point there, and I think it's worth noting how occupied are we? It's every level. It's the media, it's entertainment, it's law enforcement, like Khaleesi was just mentioning. Not just in this case, but oddly, and just found this out the other day, 9/11. The head of the New York Police Department was, of all places, in Israel just 3 weeks prior to the attack on the Twin Towers. He also, that same individual, received a $250,000 cash advance that was later defined as a loan from an Israeli billionaire as a result of that subsequent trip. Isn't that a weird connection that we see law enforcement, their hands all over this stuff? We also, of course, the sheriff that oversaw the Las Vegas shooting that took place at the music festival a couple years ago, that same sheriff was curiously the person in charge of the Maui police department during the wildfires. What a weird set of coincidences that is. And we just see these things across, like I was saying, it's all of the law enforcement, it's all of the politics, it's all of the arts and entertainment. Bob, this singer that everybody's up in arms about, if you look into him, sure enough, at the top of his funding, I'm not saying that he's owned by these people, but his checks certainly have largely been signed by this same collective of people. Weird coincidence. And even this platform that we're talking on. I've talked in the past how, according to Grok, 4 of the mothers of Elon's children are Jewish, making the 14 kids that he has Jewish, along with just about all of the ownership, like I always talk about, of big tech, of the media, etc. But Elon just today, I put it onto my wall, he just today announced they've got a head of product for X that he's very excited about, and he's there posing with this individual. I commented on his post suggesting, wow, look, another Jew, because he is, and I know that because on X I searched his name and found a post, I am ethnically Jewish, tied to this individual. That person subsequently blocked me for suggesting that. I didn't make fun of him. I didn't say anything hateful about him. I just said, hey, look, another Jew, and was subsequently blocked. And so what a perfect microcosm we have for the state of the state that is this platform, supposed to be the freest of speech digital apparatuses, where the head of product just says, nope, you don't get to comment. And it serves as, like I said, that perfect consolidation of all of the things that we would say in these spaces, which is one of the only places you'll hear this suggestion, which is that the entirety of not only politics, law enforcement, but as a result of the digital and media and news networks all being also controlled. And that's not just, CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, where Ryan Dawson informed us the other week that the Murdoch family are actually Jewish, in fact, which that was news to me. I'd never heard that one, but I do trust Ryan's research, right? But it's not just the mainstream news networks, the mainstream media, it's Disney, it's Netflix, it's all of it. And really quickly, as a microcosm, Netflix, run by none other than the descendant of the father of what a lot of people call propaganda. He actually wrote a book, Edward Bernays, on this subject. So go look up Edward Bernays, propaganda. You're going to find that he's a Jew who was the pioneer that got women into smoking cigarettes, something that prior to that would have been thought of as completely unheard of, right? So he was able to propagandize them to do something that's actually not only was let's say, bad from a social standpoint, but also literally for their health. We all know that now, right? So they were able to propagandize that. And who is it that is his nephew? But Mark Randolph Bernays, the founder of Netflix, which is the #1 streaming program on the planet. But it doesn't matter if you go to Netflix or if you go to Disney or if you go to Amazon Prime, because guess what? It's all owned by the same people. So your mind is it's colonized. We are a subjected people. And the most important thing to recognizing that is to first just have the awareness, then to start suggesting that to other people, and to help them recognize that there's nothing hateful or wrongful about rejecting that subversion of your worldview, right? We all agree that slavery is bad, and we could go back to the founding of slavery and we'll find a similar pattern. I won't go into that one. But what I will say is if we agree that slavery is a bad thing, then the slavery of the mind, the body, and the soul should all be bad. And that's what happens when every piece of your academia, your media, your entertainment, your technology, your politicians, your law enforcement, your judicial system is all completely owned by one group of collective interests. And it's really concerning. It's terrifying. But the good news is we're slowly waking up to it. Other people are slowly going through that same process. As they do, they'll feel all kinds of confusion, anger, rage. We have to take all of that energy and not put it into violence or hatred, but merely into public discourse. So talk about it with everybody, your neighbor, your friends, your family, your teachers, your mentors, whatever. Talk about it with everyone. Because once we all realize that we have this common enemy of essentially good, then we will be able to create a more righteous tomorrow, right? And so you're absolutely right, Khaleesi. It's complete ownership. It's terrifying, and it's literally at every turn. It's like, oh, there's a shooting. Guess who the sheriff is? Guess where he's visited? Or guess what part of the tribe he belongs to?
His parents.
It's like at every turn.
His parents were massive MAGA supporters. There's pictures of them with MAGA hats. Suleiman posted it, and I think some hardcore MAGA supporters got a bit upset with him. And then he was given an ISIS flag by the FBI. Like, why was the 2024 Idaho attacker? I think this is the previous one. Was given an ISIS flag by the FBI. There's so many links all over this one with Israel, Ian. It's shocking. It's astonishing. I have no idea what's going on in Idaho.
Yeah, but the only thing I do know is that you're hateful for noticing that there's a weird pattern here. Or at least that's what the big tech would tell you.
Yeah.
And you know there. Is it true that no one's been like arrested yet or held accountable yet, like the shooter? Is that true?
They found him dead. Sorry.
They found him dead? See, like it's either always one of those craps. Like they either got away or they found him dead. Like that's how you also know it's a Zionist involved.
Casey, jump in, and then we go to Dr. Charlotte. I can't see any of the other hands, and then I'll go to Maze to get her perspective. Casey, jump in.
Yeah, thank you. I'll make it quick because that's why I was listening to. Thank you for the space, Suleiman and Khaleesi, and it was great to see everybody here. Yeah, that's I was listening to, the up-to-date information about like what was going on, and I already knew they would find him dead and try to figure out what kind of a story they would make. I felt like the FBI, and a lot of people aren't going to agree with me because there are people out here who are just all of a sudden so excited about the government just because Trump is president. Is absolutely insane to me, but whatever, we're still supposed to question the government. I felt like the FBI went in there way too fast. Yes, because our states already have, like our state, we have things in place for crises. Okay. So when the FBI showed up as fast as they did, I just felt like it was a cover up story getting ready to happen. I gotta be careful, but like for me, it's like, I really don't know what happened up there. I don't, because now they're shopping this kid around, and I mean, I guess he's the person. Okay, fine. If he is, there's of course all ties as usual to the same place, Israel. The sheriff was trained in Israel. A lot of our local law enforcement is trained in Israel, and actually some of our local law enforcement, there's a program they use called Zen City to like kind of spy on us, and that's based out of Israel. It's like, I don't even know where my country ends and where Israel begins. Is just like, I live in a Jewish state. I mean, that's how I feel. I mean, and I don't think that I'm wrong for feeling that way. It's just literally, I mean, it is insane. And there's been, for me, this thing where like all of a sudden, because there was, some confusion about some Israeli that was coming to America to speak to a church. Why is there an Israeli speaking on a pulpit at the church? But guess what? That's not the only time that happens. I mean, constantly you have these Israeli Jews telling Christians how they're supposed to feel about Israel. It's just Israel everywhere. This, I mean, honestly, if I didn't have this amazing panel to like laugh about it and just try to, parse this out, you could really almost lose your mind because it is. And people say you're obsessed with. No, I'm not the one obsessed. I want it gone. I want it gone. A local situation happens. The FBI runs in. I don't know the full answers. I don't know what. I knew the person would be all of it, they would be dead. And there was no way that person was going to come out of it alive. And now I have to accept whatever story that's given to me. And then there's still some Israeli sprinkling going on around that too. We can't have anything. So it's just, I mean, it's frustrating. And then what they're doing, across the pond to Bob Villain, they're gonna go after him hard. I pray for that man. They are going to go after him hard. They went after, Kanye, and I know, whatever he said. Okay, he said some words, right? They went after him hard for noticing that he had too many Jewish people around him. They did the same thing. The Prince, Michael Jackson wanted to talk a little bit about Palestine. Well, we see what happened with that. So it's just, I'm gonna pray for him. But no, if you notice, there's one group that can in 48 hours change the trajectory where my politicians in America are now talking about this man and revoking his visa. And you got Leo Terrell. We're going to stop anti-Semitism now. It is disgusting to me. I'm supposed to live in a country with freedom of speech. I used to be proud, an indignant American, like, yeah, we could talk about whatever. But then you find out there's one thing you're not allowed to notice or talk about. But it's okay because, like, on a space like this, like I said, we break it down. Freedom is the speech, the reality is defended on a space like this. I could have never went on this much in another space. I would have got shut down a long time ago. And that's an American space. Like, how they say, we don't want other people talking about our politics. Yeah, y'all shut people down when they start getting too real. So thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to vent. Yeah, and that's what's going on. It's the same pattern. And for people who are acting like they don't see it or call you crazy, they see it. They're just afraid to confront it face to face. But again, I'm blessed to be around people who aren't afraid to talk about it. Back to you, please.
You've fallen for divide and conquer is what you've done. Fallen right for it.
I'm sorry, I've fallen for what? For divide and conquer?
Yes, you fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Divide and conquer.
Hook, line, and sinker. Why? What part of that? I'm sorry. What part of that is divide and conquer? To tell the truth?
That's how it's done. Like Israel and Iran. Has anybody in here, has any host told you that all wars are by design? Has any host told you that? For those of you who don't know me, you can check my bio. Has anybody told you all wars are by design? Those evil ones are always 5,000 steps ahead of us, aren't they? They sure
Yeah, they have
are.
a name too. Yeah, they have a name. I know who designs them. Absolutely.
No, you
That's
don't
what I
know
love
who
about this
runs the
space.
world. You don't know who runs the world. Nobody does. You don't know if they're
Okay.
Jewish. You don't know if they're Christian. You don't know if they're black, white. You don't
They
know
certainly
their
aren't Christian,
bloodline.
Erickson. They
You
certainly are
don't
not
know
Christian.
nothing.
No need to be all abrasive, Erickson.
No,
You
no,
know
no,
what I'm
it's okay.
saying?
I like it. I do. And I don't want to derail the space, but let me just tell Erickson one thing I do know as a Christian, they are not Christians who are running anything, okay? But on this space, one good thing is that we do talk about how these things are designed, and we
Oh,
even get
yeah,
into the fiscal
8,000
policies.
to
Simon is
12,000
agreeing with me.
pedophile priests in the Catholic Church. Yeah, good for you Christians. 8 to
So,
12,000 pedophile priests in your church. And that's my
what about the.
nature, Maze.
Hey,
I'm abrasive.
Erickson, do you want to do a comparison on the number of rabbis to priests that have been caught molesting kids in New York City in the last 10 years? Do you want to do that? Because I got the stat for you.
You guys are so off target, it's unbelievable. Educate
Oh,
yourself.
am I a hateful person? I mean, you wanted to
Educate
talk about a
yourself.
specific issue, and I'll do it with you. I'm educating you at the moment, actually, because I don't think you know what you're talking about.
I mean, no offense, but I think the only person off target here, and I don't know you from Adam or Eve Erickson, but it seems like you're the one off target. You just got onto Casey for no good reason, totally taking her conversation in a totally different direction about, oh, you don't know who runs the world. Who cares? All we know is that there are people who are doing bad things. Whether we know now, we don't know another time. It's neither here nor there. I think you're the one off target. Kelsey, may I speak now, please?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
going to
please
find
go
out
ahead.
who's off target now,
Yeah.
aren't we? Go read my bio. Go read
Okay,
bio.
Erickson, no one's interested in your bio. I'll let you go, Casey, because I know Casey's more than capable of defending herself. You also sent me DMs about how I should be addressing things and what I'm missing and stuff. I don't take dictation from anybody, Erickson. Okay. So anyway, Dr. Shola, just before I come to Dr. Shola, right, I want to say something here. We're talking about sheriffs in America being trained by the
By the
Israeli
Vatican.
police. No, yeah, exactly, by the Vatican, by the Israeli police. So, guys, you know when the George Floyd thing happened, and Dr. Schuller, remember this? There was a politician in the UK called Rebecca Long Bailey, and she said the US police get their training from Israel, and Israel teaches them to put the knee on the neck of people. And there was
Mm.
absolute uproar in this country. She was sacked over it. She was fired over it, even though all the media reports were saying, actually, she said the truth, but how dare you speak the truth? She was fired over saying that. But Dr. Shola, back to you.
Yeah, I think this came out during the Judge Floyd. And it's one of the things that came out then, and people realized that was it U.S. police officers or so are trained by Israeli. Look, honestly, what I was going to say was that you and that girl Casey, I swear to God, when you said the word occupied, Khaleesi, I swear it was like a light bulb went off in my head. And that girl Casey, when you said it feels like I live in a Jewish state, another light bulb went off in my head. I think I feels more like I live in a Zionist state rather than a Jewish state. And the word occupied is sounding so more and more. It just resonates. And I won't lie to you guys. Maybe it's because I feel like I'm learning so much in the last 20 months. I don't know where the hell I was before October 2023. Like, what was I? How did I not know that anti-Semitism was weaponized the way it was? How did I not know how things were working when but the way I've calmed myself down is, look, everything works for a reason. It doesn't matter what I did not know then. What matters is what I know now. And now is the time I meant to know. Because this is a rude awakening. The headlines in Britain and in America is filled with immigrants this, immigrants that, mostly about black and brown people, right? Or Muslims looking for asylum and refuge, running from war-torn countries. Whereas the real issue is that we're being controlled by forces and we did not know. I mean, how is that even possible? It's like we are living in a real life matrix, and some of us are just waking up. I accept that many of you were well awoke a long time ago, but some of us are like, what the actual hell? What is this? So, from what I can see, the British government is a Zionist government. I mean, David Lammy, the foreign secretary, called himself a Zionist, i.e., he's a Zionist Christian, right? And clearly, Keir Starmer is a Zionist too. I know people like to bring up things like, oh, who they're married to. To me, their spouses are neither here nor there. Whether Kamala Harris is married to a Jewish man is irrelevant. To me, it's irrelevant. Um, Keir Starmer is married to a Jewish man. To me, that's irrelevant because not their spouses are not in government. What I prefer to look at is the person running in government and what they do. And so far, Keir Starmer and his government have not done anything to hold Israel accountable. They have made sure that Britain is absolutely complicit in one of the worst genocides I've seen in my lifetime. Okay, and so it was just very interesting to me to hear the words occupied and hear run by Jewish state. But like I said, I'll replace that with Zionist because I think it's more Zionist than say Jewish. And I have a feeling that just as people were chanting death to the IDF at the Glastonbury Festival, people, I don't know how many of you agree that I think millions of people, millions, I don't mean thousands, I actually mean millions of people in the West are waking up to the horror that is Zionism and the evil that is Israel. I don't know if you agree, but I'll stop there.
You know what, Khaleesi, if I could just real quick, 30 seconds with Dr. Shola, just say, I appreciate everything you said. And the same thing happened to me with October, after October 7th, 2023, was, what started to wake me up to what was going on was the response to people around me who thought it was okay that Israel was dropping bombs on like civilians, and just the immediate, 100% like we're with Israel immediate. And I'm like, this is crazy. And the Christians who were like, no, 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 they're doing the right thing. And I'm like, what is this timeline that I'm living in? And so the cognitive dissonance was crazy. And then you start to unravel and unravel. And I'm not going to go into everything that peeled away, and it's just one day you're almost nauseous because you just find out so much of the control. And our countries are literally like, I mean, it's the same thing. And this is why, look, and I'll say it one time, and I don't do disclaimers all the time. When I say Jewish, I know it's not all Jews. Okay, I know it's not the man in the bakery, down the street. I still like Jewish apple cake, and I'll leave it there. But the point is, this is why I can understand why when somebody like, Brother Ibrahim, who's not on the panel now, he doesn't understand when we say this about this occupation, because they fight the Zionists. They know who's trying to occupy them. I'm still trying to wake up Americans. This is not normal that our police is being trained by Israel to put knees on necks. No matter how you feel about what happened that day, that really is, I didn't know that. I did not know that, even still to now. So I just wanted to just say that.
And it was a black man's neck, and that became the symbol. And to find that that teaching then came from Israel and, an occupier, an apartheid state, it speaks volumes, quite frankly, absolutely speaks volumes. And I think that, to my point earlier, that millions of people are waking up to the horror that is Zionism. I think the reality as well is that Zionists, especially Zionists in this country, are waking up to the fact that, oh my God, this is a totally different era, a totally different decade. These people are not afraid of us. These people are not afraid of us. They are actually applying critical thinking skills and asking freaking questions. So imagine my shock when I found that in Germany, you can go to jail for denying the Holocaust. Now, to me, it's crazy to deny the Holocaust. It's history and the evidence is right there. Yeah. But it is crazier to me, especially as a Black woman, knowing fully well that people, especially all of these races, deny every day that racism exists, deny that, what happened during the slave trade, what happened during the colonization, and even much worse. And they don't go to jail. What the hell should people go to jail because they don't believe the Holocaust happened? How does that make sense? And that standard is not applied across the board. So that got me thinking, like, I mean, Germany, look, you've got plenty you have to make up for. Like, you messed up big time with your Nazi Holocaust. Okay, I get it. But you can't be so, I don't know, deep in guilt that you don't realize that you're allowing the horror you caused to be happening. You are supporting the descendants of the people you killed to commit the same horror you did. How are you so blind to that? So I don't know. It's like every single day something new is happening, and my brain is going, "What the actual hell?" And people, I know I look young. Thank you, Jesus. I know I look young, but I promise you, I'm in my late 40s. I feel old now, and I'm like, how am I just finding these things out now? It's crazy.
And Dr. Scholler, really quickly, if I could, Khaleesi, I just wanted to ask, because obviously I have a ton of respect for your position, opinion, and obviously the Black community is going to look up to you far more just intrinsically, right, than they might individuals that perhaps have my skin complexion and skin tone. And I'd be curious because you mentioned the slave trade, which obviously the fingerprints are disproportionately Jewish when it comes to the ships that were doing the trading, the people that were doing the buying and selling. Even the slave ownership in the New World was disproportionately Jewish. And that's not a conspiracy. You can ask Grok that question and it'll return that answer. I'd be curious what you think, if anything, people could or should be doing, whether it's in the Black community or the white community, to connect that dot? Because I feel like when it comes to helping people awaken to this problem, and helping them develop the courage to stand up and speak out against it, that's one of these pieces of kind of forgotten history, that's obviously intentionally kind of glanced over by academia and Hollywood. But I feel like the Black community, upon learning that, would just be not only mortified, but also energized, and kind of shaken out from the slumber, to this oppression that we see not only in the past but also in the present.
I mean, that's a great question, but I think the reality for a lot of Black people is that that information in is unknown. It's not just that it was glossed over. The bottom line is, it's, let's put it this way: white people enslaved, kidnapped Black, Africans, and the white is, if it's broken down at all, would usually be British, Spanish, or Portuguese. But what people don't then break it down into is faiths or ethnicities, because of course you can have a Spanish Jew or a British Jew, right? An Italian Jew. You can have all of that, but none of that is not broken down. So it's not information that is part of the history of the transatlantic slave trade that Black people, whether be them in Africa, the Americas, or in Britain, are aware of. And I think that for people to now, um, and even as I'm saying this, I can already hear the rebuttal from the Zionists, that the moment Black people start to wake up to, oh my goodness, you mean 90% of the ships were owned by Jewish people? What the hell? And the Jewish people will be white Jews, not Black or brown Jews, right? I don't even need to look that up for me to know that it would be white Jewish people that own those ships. The moment Black people start to talk about that, you will see they will get accused of anti-Semitism. The focus would then be moved from, what the hell did you do to Black people, to, oh, they're accusing and they just hate, they hate Jewish people. But I think you've raised a really good point. I think it's really about uncovering a lot of the lost history that we have been denied about what happened to our ancestors, what happened on our lands, what was stolen from us, all of that kind of information. And you know that there is a deliberate, concerted effort to erase Black history. And that Black history, be it a Black American history, be it African history, I don't know, South American history, there is a concerted effort. And the reason for that is because white history wants to dominate, and white history does not want to be consumed with guilt. They reject that. But we reject their lies, we reject their whitewash. And I think the more of us that are aware of what's going on, and if we can connect the dots, that's the thing. I don't think it's enough to just say, actually, maybe it is enough to just say, oh, 90% of the ships, transatlantic ships, were owned by Jewish people. But the Jewish people weren't, Israel did not exist then. So clearly, these Jewish people were nationals of one of these countries in the West. People need to connect those dots. Just like it is good to know that Christians, British Christians, Spanish Christians, Portuguese Christians, all that we know, because we know that the West always say that we brought civilization, the three C's: civilization, Christianity, and commerce to Africa. And without us, these people would have just been living in huts, and they wouldn't even know how to read or write. Like, we weren't reading and writing our own languages. And don't get me started on that, or else I will now definitely digress. But I think that's a great point. But it's more really about unlocking the lost history and information that we have been denied for centuries.
Well, I mean, it hasn't really been denied. The Jewish Virtual Library carries it all and even names names as to who a lot of the Jewish slave owners were. You can read about guys like Aaron Lopez, the DeSanto family, the DeWolf family, many other prominent Jewish families, including blacks like Anthony Johnson that also owned slaves. There were lots of black slave owners as well. Perhaps you're familiar with the North African black slave trade that took place that was enslaving white people between the
Yeah.
16th and 19th century. In fact, black historians acknowledge that more white slaves were trafficked during this time than black slaves were. So there's no whitewashing history. There's telling the truth about history that's very well known. It's just that some people don't want to look into it because they just want to play the victim card and say it only happened to me, or my suffering or what took place with me is more important or matters more than what took place to white people. So, I mean, you need to make the distinction that, slavery's happened to every single culture and it's colorblind, first of all, and it's happened for thousands of years and no one particularly cared. At first time, slave actually comes from the word Slav, which is a Slavic word. So it was first happening with Eastern Europeans. And if you're wondering who the blacks were slave trading or trafficking, it was whites from Italy, from Sweden, from different parts of Europe, actually. So let's at least get our facts straight as to who was carrying out slavery. And let's not forget the Moors also occupied many parts of Europe as well between the 7th and 14th centuries and occupied those lands until they were pushed out. So there's guilt on both sides, I would say. I'm not going to just whitewash anybody's crimes, but the truth does need to be told. And if you're wondering if there were, besides, you love to just say it's the white Jews, but I mean, David Sassoon was an Iraqi Jew, a Mizrahi Jew, and he was one of the biggest slave traders as well. He was also a narco trafficker and a human trafficker. He would export his drugs from India onto China. He got all the Chinese hooked on opium, but they just blamed the British for that. But it was in fact him, the Kaduri families, and many prominent Jewish families that of Iraqi Jew descent, so Middle Eastern descent, they were at the forefront of actually doing the opium wars and also doing human trafficking and narco trafficking. So once again, you can't just say Ashkenazi Jews were the ones to blame. It's not a white problem. It's everybody. There's many people that were involved, and then they all deserve blame as well, including those black slave owners who sold other blacks into slavery and also retained black slaves themselves. Nobody made them do that. That was also a choice. So once again, like you have this very one-sided view when it comes to retelling the history that you want to tell people because you want to look at it from the black victim perspective rather than look at it as what's true and what's not. And if you do that, then you'll realize that blacks are equally culpable, if not more, because they enslaved and trafficked more whites than the other way around. So at least let's get our facts straight. Plus, facts, it was actually white people that ended slavery. It was the British that ended slavery in and around 1833, and it was also the Russians and the Americans that ended slavery in and around 1861 and 1863. Both Abraham Lincoln imposed the Emancipation Proclamation, and of course, it was Alexander the second who ended slavery or serfdom as well by 1861 as well. And it was hundreds of thousands of white British people that physically ended slavery and gave their lives to end it, but the Jews just didn't want to stop doing it. So, and that's why they started breeding slaves from within America from what they had. And they were also managing the plantations as well in both Central America and South America. They were at the forefront of managing both the cotton and the sugar plantations. So let's at least get our facts straight as to who you want to deem as guilty and not try to portray the white man as the guilty party when in fact blacks were equally, if not more, culpable, and it's the
Okay.
Jews that were at the forefront
Truth,
of both
truth,
slavery and more.
truth, you've made the point.
I'm sorry,
Dr.
Khaleesi,
Shola, I
can
will let you respond. I will let you respond. Let me just go to the breaking news in the nest. Guys, air defense activated at the Noja Air Base in Hamadan, Iran. That was a short while ago. We're also going to get a statement shortly from Iran itself as to what this is about. But that tweet is in the nest. So please retweet it, share it. And also underneath that, you can see that drone strike hit on IRGC leadership meeting in Tehran. It was the Hebrew channels that were reporting this. We're still waiting to see if there's any other source for this. We have shared it, but we have put at the bottom of that tweet, awaiting further confirmation. So we'll keep you updated. Dr. Shola, if you want to respond to that, and then I want to get back on topic of the day's news. Go ahead, Dr. Shola.
yes, of course, of course. So, now, truth, as you were speaking, at first, I was kind of nodding my head, listening to what you're saying, because there was nothing you were saying that I'm not aware of. But you had to then coat your words with, oh, well, it looks like what you're doing is blaming one side, or you're trying to be a black victim. I do not think you have the right, nor should you have the audacity to tell me as a black person what ground I stand on when I tell our story. So it's not about being a black victim. I was asked a specific question about the role of Jewish slave owners, and that is what I was responding to. And then your false equivalence of the transatlantic slave trade to other forms of slavery that's happened is such bullshit. Because with all due respect, the millions and millions of black people stolen from Africa, and millions of their descendants who were cut off from their families, their names, their roots, are nothing compared to, oh, I don't know, the Moors came to Spain and took over Spain. The people they took over are still in Spain, know who they are. I mean, there's just no freaking comparison, okay? And let me just quickly add here. This is not about blaming one group or another. The question was about how much the black people know about Jewish slave ship owners. And I said that information is not as accessible. It's not part of what we are necessarily taught. Yet you can go and read about it. That doesn't mean the information isn't there. But we know very well that the information about the transatlantic slave trade, about colonization, and all of that is basically what we have been fed from the colonial,
Yeah, by
the
Jewish
former
media. The
colonial
Jews control
masters,
the history
and
books.
what we have been fed
Truth, please
all
don't
over.
interrupt her. She didn't interrupt you at all. Go ahead, Dr. Shola.
And then to add insult to injury, you say, you know what? And it was the British people that first abolished it. Bullshit. Utter nonsense. So you tell me they ended the transatlantic slave trade only for them to go and colonize entire nations. You know, that colonization was slavery 2.0. And in that colonization, they committed genocide after freaking genocide. They stole resources. They committed some of the worst war crimes on God's earth. So do not sell me. Oh, the white man then came and saved us from the transatlantic slave trade. Nonsense. It carried on even after the British, apparently abolished it. All of the big institutions carried on providing insurance for slavery. It carried on. So no, I do not need you to tell me what I should know about my people or where we come, what we stand on. Do you understand? So please keep your opinion to yourself and do not do any false equivalence because that's just bullshit. Khaleesi, please, let's
Yeah,
go
there
on.
is no false equivalency. There's
Yeah.
yours is
So, guys,
worse.
Yes,
there's some
there is.
breaking
There's
news.
false equivalence. It's nonsense.
There's some breaking news. I'm putting it in the nest. So I said earlier about the air defense activated at the Noja Air Base. I don't know if this is related to that, but Iranian media reports that the Iranian military is currently conducting training exercises and development tests for its air defenses. So the air defense activated could well be due to their exercises. We have put that tweet in the nest. We're giving you live breaking news as it comes in. So please share it. Please retweet it. Casey, jump in.
Yeah. So I wanted to go back and ask Simon again about the Bob Villain situation. Like, how do you feel about what's going on with that? And what do you think will happen next? I mean, even in his financial situation and all that, what do you think will happen next, Simon?
Bob Dylan, I think they're going to come after him hard. um, but I think he's up for the battle, and I think this is something we should really, really pay attention to. I think it's a very nuanced view of,
So Simon, who's coming after him this time? Is it the corporations or the Jews?
well, the media, if you're talking about, and yeah, the media is Jewish dominated. We know that.
So it's the Jews. Thank you.
All right, yeah, you can have that one. When it's truth, I'll give it to you. But yeah, of course. I mean, deaf to the IDF. That's going to be Jews that are going to come after you, no doubt. Um, but what do I think will happen? I don't know. I think we need to watch it very carefully. I think if they take this all the way and he gets arrested, I think he's up for the battle. I think he took a very deliberate decision. I think he's the words are very nuanced. I think it's defendable in law. I've got no idea what the legal case is, but I think at the end of the day, this could turn into, as I keep calling, the Streisand effect, where the more you try and sweep this under the floor, the more people I think are going to chant, and I think it's probably going to become. I think he's going to release some kind of song around this. To be honest, like I feel like he's going to take this all the way. This is somebody that seems very, very connected to the Palestinian cause. Just like all of us, we are just completely fed up. You know, Palestinians were murdered today. They were queuing up for food, and people are being sniped. I think there's like another 50, 60. Like, I mean, we don't even count the numbers anymore. So the IDF are killing Palestinians, innocent civilians, nothing to do with Hamas. They're committing a genocide. Anybody that supports the IDF, they're whitewashing. They're not, talking about the IDF is a death cult, a terrorist group, state-sponsored terrorism. And if they want to frame this not as a genocide, but they want to frame it as a Hamas IDF war, then the two parties that are engaged in war is the targets of each party. And so, if it's okay to say we want to wipe out, eliminate Hamas, which someone like Piers Morgan would just do normally, like it's completely normalized and accepted that that's acceptable. So why shouldn't it be acceptable that the other party to the war, people should say the same thing? It's a double standard. I think it's going to have a really interesting legal precedent if this goes to law, and I think it's going to backfire. If this demonstrates the sheer level of power, I just think it's going to highlight everything. I think it's a really important part of this, and the further they go, the worse it's going to get. I think it's a real turning point. Yeah,
Simon, did we get confirmation that IDF shot at the actual journalists, like intentionally? I was hoping you could provide clarity on that because I've heard both sides. Do you know the answer to that?
IDF. They're shooting journalists. They're shooting everything. We got Doctors with Borders saying that they've never seen so many IDFs. IDF, the children are just coming in, and they've been directly shot. The case. This is a long list of evidence. When this goes to court, when this genocide case, gets progressed. The evidence is just
I thought it was like
indisputable.
British and American journalists. That's why I was asking. I thought it was like especially egregious, like they were shooting at American and British journalists or over their heads or something. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, there's aid workers, British aid workers, Australian aid workers, like Solomon and Khaleesi have covered a lot of the stories. It's whitewashed. No one cares about it. No one talks about it. And even then, it's just such a shame that we have to say, all right, when it happens to a British person or Australian person, screw the 10,000 children that it's happened to, or whatever it is, whatever the number is, we're going to find out. But suddenly, when it happens to a British person, even then, it's still covered up because the media is completely covering up for this. But yeah, I think it's a turning point, Casey, to get back to your question. I think this is one that we should really, really follow. And I think everything they do is going to backfire 10 times over. This one's not going away. um, he made Glastonbury great again, and the people in the audience is reflective of how people feel. And I think it's to me, if an army is engaged in war, as they said they are, then this is definitely not anti-Semitism. This is not calling for death to Jews. I'd like to see it all go. I'd like to see this go to court, because I think it's a really nuanced legal case, as well as whatever they're going to do to try and send him to prison. Yeah, this is going to be a big case, and I think we need to watch it.
But
I hope
Simon, I mean, sorry, go ahead, Dr. Shalom.
I was going to say, I hope they win. I agree with Simon about, legally what grounds they may have or not have to be able to defend this. I hope they get really good lawyers, because I'm sure there would be good grounds for them to be able to prove that it's not incitement. But the double standards and hypocrisy, I think, would be very good evidence, because look, the reality here is, if the chance had been death to Hamas, none of this conversation would be happening. If there had been death to the Russian army, nobody would even be, raising an eyebrow. If it had been death to the freaking KKK, I would not give a rat's ass, right? Nobody would be saying anything. But somehow, Zionists, and I don't think this is anti-Zionist Jews. I think Zionists, both Jews and Christians and Zionists, Muslims, Zionists, whatever, decided that this is too far, because I think the reality for them is, it was a shock. It was not just a shock that somebody would stand on a big stage like Glastonbury and say these words, but that for people across different generations to be chanting those words too, It means that people are awake to their foolishness. And the fact that it was broadcasted on national television, BBC no less, it just showed they had no freaking control. I mean, right now they're talking about the BBC head of BBC, being taken off and all of that nonsense. I'm like, why would you fire somebody who was probably not even a Glastonbury, who had no, I don't see how the BBC is at fault here. Yeah, maybe somebody right then and there could have made a decision to pull the plug on airing that part. But before you could have even said, before anyone could have said probably, oh, pull that plug, he had already finished the chant. you know he had already finished the chant, and they were probably not prepared for something like that. So I just think that there's a lot of pearl clutching. I hope that this becomes a test case that totally overturns the heads of, I mean, all of the direction Zionism has taken this country. I hope it's the case that Bob Villan, the group, is able to come out of this triumphant. The same for Niqab.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dr. Shola. I was just going to say that when we talk about hate speech, that's the Public Order Act 1986, and that has to be against a protected group, or something that's specifically defined as a protected group. The IDF is not that. The IDF is a foreign military. So I also hope he gets some really good lawyers. And I hope he sues the BBC while they're at it, because the BBC have published articles calling him anti-Semitic.
Yeah, they've done that because that's what their Zionist masters have told them. This is why I gave you the example of what Angela Epstein said this morning. The moment they say, well, we have told you, it hurts, the feelings of Jewish people, it's anti-Semitic. This is exactly why all of these papers are reporting it falsely, in my opinion, reporting it as anti-Semitic. I mean, clearly the chant was not against the Jewish population of the world. It wasn't being used, it was targeted against a specific institution, which is what the IDF is. And that should have been the case. People should have seen it for what it is. It just took the light away from the reason why people are chanting death to the IDF, to making it all about the feelings of Jewish people.
And I'm sorry, if someone comes up to your child, sticks a rifle in their face, and shoots them, what are
Yeah,
you going to want to do to that person?
thank you. I mean, I don't know if you saw, Simon, but in the papers today, they actually not advertised. There was coverage given for one of the IDF soldiers, British Israeli guy, 20 years old, who died in an explosion in Gaza. So I'm like, why the hell are you giving this guy coverage? I don't understand. I mean, I literally tweeted this. I'm like, why the hell are you giving him coverage? I don't understand. He's part of the IDF, a baby killing terrorist army, and you are putting it out there. Why? Because you expect us to mourn him? I said, no, I'll pass. I don't get it. He's fighting in a foreign war, not a British war, committing war crimes. And the only reason he's been put in I saw it in the Sky News article. The only reason he's been put there is because the Zionists put him there. Period. Because this guy has contributed nothing to the British society. He's not fighting a British war. So why the hell do we need to know that a British Israeli just all about power and control?
Oh boy. Did Khaleesi drop?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
she did.
guys, we're getting some connection issues. Follow Suleiman just in case, guys. Follow his profile, and then hit the notification bells for turn on notifications just in case. Our space is being heavily attacked, heavily censored right now. So tap Suleiman's profile picture, hit the follow button. We will get Khaleesi right back in the space. Hopefully it stabilizes. If not, we will restart right away, and a new fresh space. So make sure to follow Suleiman, follow Khaleesi when she gets back in here. And thank you guys very much. Let's get the mic to Richard.
Thanks, Moffat. I'm curious as to your thoughts on something, and especially since Israel went and attacked Iran against the recommendations of President Trump, and then, to the chagrin of the American people, the United States inevitably got involved with its B-2s and on the bombing run on Fordo, and it sent Americans into an uproar. And then DHS and American intelligence immediately responded by basically, you know, starting the or activating the Palantir kill chain protocol to label American citizens who push back and are angry about what's happening as basically Iranian sleeper cell terrorists. And from everything that Simon just outlined, and that Dr. Shola also further discussed, and what we've seen with our own eyes, it's clear we're fighting a battle with the people who the only thing that matters is their ideology and their victory and what their ultimate agenda is. And I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, and I was curious as to your thoughts. We were actually thinking that Iran should have done more. We would have liked to have seen Iran completely level all of Israel because, I mean, to his credit, Adolf Hitler said if Israel becomes a state, Jews will not all flock there, the diaspora from all over the world. No, they'll use Israel as a centralized safe house and continue subverting nations all over the world. And so that's exactly what they've done. And I'm trying to imagine the American Jewish subversion problem without an Israel to just skedaddle and law of return run away to. I think that would have made a huge difference. And I would say, if Iran is attacked again by Israel, I do hope that the response from Iran is significantly larger and more destructive this time around, because that would be a huge head of a snake to cut off. What do you think about that?
I absolutely agree. And guys, really quick before I answer, if the space goes out, follow Suleiman's page, follow Khaleesi's page. We will restart the space immediately. I'm getting that notification a lot. To answer the question, though, I agree. Israel is a genocider entity. It's a snake entity. This entity it's like you can't let it go back and get stronger. That's what it's been doing the last 2 weeks. There's a drone strike. If you guys saw Suleiman's recent post, and that's breaking news actually very recently as well. Within the last few hours, there was a drone strike within Iran again. So like you can't negotiate with this genocidal entity, this holocaustic Zionist entity. There's no dealing with it. There's no negotiating with it. I agree with you, Richard. I definitely would have liked to see more. Just because I've seen the pattern, I've seen what they did to Gaza, Palestine. There's no ceasefire in this genocidal entity's definition. A ceasefire